Hey everyone, remember back in school learning about ancient Persia,
Mm.
those emperors and the battles, just the sheer scale of it all. We all learned about Alexander the Great, right, conquering that massive Persian empire, but that wasn't actually the end of the story. Centuries later, another Persian dynasty rose from the ashes, and it was a dynasty that was even more powerful in some ways, one that even went head-to-head with Rome. So today, we're going to take a deep dive into the rise of the Sasanian Empire.
It's a story full of intrigue and drama, beginning in the 3rd century AD. It was a period of just upheaval in the region. And the Parthian Empire, which had ruled Persia and Mesopotamia for 500 years, was on shaky ground.
500 years. That's a pretty impressive run. What happened? What led to their downfall?
Well, their system of rule, for one, the Parthians operated as these kings of kings.
Kings of Kings.
Yeah, which meant that their power rested on a network of these vassal kings. So it created this really delicate balance. And when that balance was disrupted, well, the whole structure became vulnerable.
So internal divisions and power struggles.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, they had constant pressure from the Roman Empire, on their western border. While the Romans didn't directly conquer the Parthians, their repeated incursions into Mesopotamia, including the sacking of the Parthian capital Ctesiphon, definitely took their toll.
So the stage is set.
Yeah.
The Parthians are weakened. And this is where our underdog, Ardashir, enters the picture, right?
Right. Ardashir starts as this seemingly insignificant figure, just a younger son of a local king in Persia. But his story is one of ambition, cunning, and, let's be honest, ruthlessness.
Yeah, and that's what is interesting to me. How does someone go from that position to toppling an empire and then establishing a dynasty that lasts for centuries?
Well, Ardashir was incredibly strategic. He really understood how to exploit opportunities and, well, how to eliminate his rivals.
And he started by building up his power base in the region of Fars.
Yeah,
So this wasn't some grand planned takeover from the start. He seized his chance when it arose.
it seems that way. His father, Papak, ruled a small kingdom in Persia, and when Papak died, Ardashir's older brother inherited the throne. Now, tradition dictated that this new ruler should seek recognition from the Parthian king of kings, but when Ardashir's brother did that, he was refused.
And that refusal is what triggered the rebellion.
Exactly. What started as like a local power struggle very quickly escalated. Ardashir saw this as his opportunity, and he used it brilliantly.
I bet there were some really interesting characters and power plays along the way.
Oh, absolutely. It wouldn't be a proper empire building story without some palace intrigue, right? So Ardashir consolidated his power, defeating several local rulers. We don't have all the details, but there were certainly some mysterious deaths along the way.
Let's get to the main event, the battle that changed everything.
Right, the turning point was the Battle of Hormuzgan in 224 AD. Ardashir's forces clashed with those of Artaban, the last Parthian king of kings. Ardashir was victorious, and this victory effectively marked the end of the Parthian Empire.
Was this victory truly decisive? Or did it take time to solidify his control?
Well, there's this famous rock relief that depicts the battle, and it shows Ardashir on horseback, literally unseating Artaban. It's really powerful imagery,
Wow.
symbolizing this dramatic shift in power. But while that image is symbolic, it did take Ardashir another 2 years to fully establish his authority.
So winning the battle was just the first step. What else did Ardashir do to solidify his position and launch this new dynasty?
He was smart enough to realize that true power wasn't just about military might. Ardashir focused on strengthening the infrastructure of his new empire. So he invested in building new cities, roads, and bridges, and really crucially, he focused on developing these irrigation systems.
That's a really savvy move. Not only does it improve the lives of your people, but it also strengthens your control over the resources and economy of the empire.
Precisely. Ardashir was laying the foundation for a very prosperous state. But of course, there was also symbolism and ceremony involved.
Of course, you can't establish a new dynasty without a bit of pomp and circumstance, right?
Exactly. In 226 AD, Ardashir held his official coronation ceremony in Ctesiphon. It was very carefully orchestrated, designed to legitimize his rule and to really showcase the transfer of power.
And I'm guessing religion played a role in this too, right? Wasn't Zoroastrianism central to the Sasanian Empire?
Absolutely. Zoroastrianism, the ancient Persian religion, it became the bedrock of Sasanian legitimacy. Ardashir promoted it as the state religion, and that move had very far-reaching consequences.
So he was using religion to help consolidate his power. That's a pretty common tactic throughout history, isn't it?
It is, and it worked very effectively for Ardashir. The Sasanians claimed that their right to rule came directly from Ahura Mazda, the Zoroastrian god. There's even a rock relief showing Ardashir receiving a ring of power from Ahura Mazda,
Oh, wow.
symbolizing this divine mandate.
That's fascinating. This connection to the divine gave them an incredible amount of authority. So we've got a cunning leader who goes from relative obscurity to toppling an empire, consolidating his power through military strategy, shrewd infrastructure development, and this very deliberate embrace of religion. It's an incredible story.
And the story doesn't end there. Ardashir's son, Shapurwe, would inherit this newly established empire and face his own set of challenges, including a really dramatic confrontation with the Roman Empire. But before we get to that,
We'll take a quick pause and be back in a flash to continue our deep dive into the rise of the Sasanian Empire. Don't go anywhere. We're back, and I'm eager to hear more about Shapur. But before we dive into his reign, is there anything else from Ardashir's time that we should touch on?
there is something quite intriguing. It's about identity. During Ardashir's reign, the word Iran appears in written form for the very first time.
Wow, that's significant. So he wasn't just forging a new empire, he was also shaping a new Persian identity.
Precisely. He presented himself as the ruler of Iran, a term encompassing all Iranians, and distinguished them from an Iran or non-Iranians. So this concept of a unified Iranian identity under his rule had huge implications for the development of the Sasanian Empire.
It sounds like he was tapping into a shared heritage, creating a sense of us versus them to solidify his power.
Yes, and that concept of leveraging shared identities, whether ethnic, religious, or cultural, is a recurring theme throughout history. Leaders often use it to build cohesion and legitimize their rule. In Ardashir's case, it was particularly effective.
Okay, so Ardashir lays the groundwork for this powerful new Persian empire with its own distinct identity. Now let's move on to his son, Shapur I. He takes the throne in 240 AD, if I remember correctly. What kind of leader was he? Did he follow in his father's footsteps?
Shapur was a formidable figure in his own right. He'd been fighting alongside his father for years, so he was very well versed in warfare and politics. He continued Ardashir's policies, consolidating power and further developing Zoroastrianism as a structured religion.
Structured Zoroastrianism. Can you tell us a bit more about that? What does that entail?
Yeah, it's a fascinating development. Under Shapur Zawar, Zoroastrianism became more codified. So religious texts were collected, they were organized, temples were built, they were maintained, and a hierarchy of priests was established. This all helped to standardize religious practices and solidify Zoroastrianism's role in Sasanian society.
It sounds like a move towards a more organized, centralized religious authority, which makes sense considering how closely tied religion and rulership were in the Sasanian Empire.
Exactly. And it had lasting effects, influencing the development of Zoroastrianism for centuries to come.
So Shapur IV is a chip off the old block in many ways. But there's also this hint of something more dramatic about his reign, right? The conflict with the Romans.
Ah, yes. Shapur, I definitely had a flair for the dramatic, especially when it came to the Roman Empire. His reign was marked by a series of epic confrontations with them.
And this is where things get really interesting. Tell me more about these clashes with Rome.
Well, remember how we talked about the Romans weakening the Parthians? It seems they inadvertently created a much more powerful adversary in the Sasanians.
Those Romans, always stirring things up. But what was Shapur I's strategy? Did he just react to Roman aggression, or was there a more deliberate plan?
Shapur was a brilliant strategist. He saw the Roman threat as an opportunity to further unify his empire. He presented himself as the defender of Persia against this foreign aggressor, rallying his people against a common enemy.
That's a classic tactic, but it's effective. Playing the us versus them card can be very powerful.
And it worked incredibly well for Shapur first. He led several successful campaigns against the Romans, pushing them back from Sasanian territory. He even managed to capture a Roman emperor.
Hold on, he captured a Roman emperor. That's incredible. We're not just talking about some minor border skirmishes here. This is a major power shift. Who was the emperor? What were the circumstances?
The emperor was Valerian, and his capture in 260 AD was a truly humiliating defeat for the Romans. It sent shockwaves through the Roman world and solidified Shapur's reputation as a formidable military leader. The details are fascinating. Valerian was reportedly tricked into a meeting with Shapur Seer and then taken captive. Some accounts even say he was used as a human footstool by Shapur.
Wow, that's a story for the history books. It's like something out of a movie, a cunning trap, a captive emperor. I mean, you can imagine the propaganda value for the Sasanians.
Absolutely. This victory had a profound psychological impact on both empires. It really demonstrated the Sasanians' military might and significantly undermined Roman prestige. It's one of the defining moments of Shapur-Spin's reign and a testament to his strategic brilliance.
This is incredible. We've gone from a crumbling Parthian empire to a powerful new dynasty under Ardashir, and now his son Shapur Sasanian is capturing Roman emperors and solidifying Persia's position as a major power.
It's a testament to the Sasanians' rapid rise and their ability to adapt and thrive in a challenging geopolitical environment.
I'm already looking forward to diving deeper into those Roman-Persian wars in a future episode. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned.
It's clear that the Sasanians weren't just a blip on the historical radar. They were a force to be reckoned with, shaping the political and cultural landscape of the Regis for centuries.
We've covered so much ground already, from the Parthian decline to Ardashir's strategic rise to power, and now Shapur's stunning victory over the Romans.
And we've only just scratched the surface. The Sasanian Empire lasted for over 400 years, and there's so much more to explore. Their art, architecture, their impact on trade and religion, their complex relationship with the Roman and Byzantine empires. It's a story full of intrigue, innovation, and enduring legacies.
I'm hooked. I can't wait to learn more. What's fascinating to me is how quickly they managed to transform the power dynamics of the region. They went from a relatively minor player to a dominant force in just a few decades.
It's truly remarkable, and it makes you wonder, what were the key factors that allowed them to achieve such a rapid and dramatic rise to power? Was it purely military strength, or were there other elements at play?
That's a great question. Also curious about the long-term impact of the Sasanians. We've touched on their influence on Zoroastrianism, but what about their cultural and political legacy? How did they shape the region in the long run?
Those are all excellent questions, and they deserve a deeper dive. What's fascinating is how the Sasanians managed to create a lasting identity, a sense of what it meant to be Persian that resonated long after their empire faded away. They weren't just conquerors, they were builders, patrons of the arts, and innovators who left a lasting mark on the world.
This has been an eye-opening deep dive so far, and I'm eager to continue exploring the Sasanian story, but I think we've reached a good point to pause for now.
Indeed. We've laid the foundation, and now we can delve into the intricacies of their culture, their conflicts, and their enduring legacy in our next installment.
We're back and ready to wrap up our exploration of the Sasanian Empire. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface, but it's clear these guys were major players in the ancient world.
They really were. What's fascinating to me is how the Sasanians really expertly blended military might, political strategy, and religious authority, to establish their dominance. It raises a really important question. How did this unique approach shape their impact on the region, their long-lasting impact?
Okay, let's unpack that. We've talked about their military victories, their shrewd leaders like Ardashir and Shapur the Tusk, and their use of Zoroastrianism to legitimize their rule. But what about the specifics? What were some of the tangible ways they left their mark?
Well, their patronage of the arts was incredible. They were known for their intricate silverwork and these stunning mosaics, and of course, those monumental rock reliefs that we've mentioned. Those reliefs weren't just about showcasing royal power, they also gave us valuable insights into Sasanian culture and society and religious beliefs.
Those rock reliefs are like windows into the past, right?
Yeah.
They're not just propaganda, they're historical records.
Exactly. They provide us with this visual evidence of everything from royal processions and hunting scenes to depictions of battles and religious ceremonies. And speaking of religious beliefs, Zoroastrianism continued to be a major force throughout the Sasanian period, shaping their legal system and their social structure, and even their understanding of kingship.
We talked about Shapur I further developing Zoroastrianism into a more structured religion. Did that have a lasting impact?
It certainly did. It influenced the development of Zoroastrianism for centuries to come. It's amazing to think about how one empire's embrace of a religion could have such a long-lasting ripple effect.
It makes you think about the interconnectedness of history, doesn't it?
Right.
One event or decision can trigger a chain reaction that shapes the course of events for generations.
Absolutely. And the Sasanians are a perfect example of that. They didn't just conquer territory. They built this lasting culture and identity that continues to resonate today.
So to wrap things up, why should our listeners, people who are fascinated by history and want to understand the world a little better, care about this long-gone empire?
Because the Sasanian Empire is a reminder that history is full of surprises. It challenges our assumptions about the rise and fall of empires and reminds us that even the most powerful empires are built on this complex interplay of factors: military strength, strategic leadership, cultural innovation, and a sense of shared identity.
And sometimes a healthy dose of cunning and ruthlessness, right?
Let's not forget those elements. The Sasanians were masters of playing the game of power, but they were also builders, patrons of the arts. They left behind a legacy that stretched far beyond their borders, influencing everything from art and architecture to religion and political thought.
I have to admit, before this deep dive, my knowledge of the Sasanians was pretty limited. I knew they existed, but I didn't fully grasp their significance. Now I'm seeing them in a whole new light.
That's the beauty of exploring history, right? There's always something new to discover, another layer to peel back.
Well said. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
Well,
This has been an incredible journey through the rise of the Sasanian Empire, from the ashes of the Parthians to the heights of power, confronting the mighty Roman Empire head on.
and who knows, maybe the echoes of the Sasanians are still shaping our world in ways we don't even realize.
That's a great point. It leaves us with something to ponder, doesn't it? The lasting impact of empires, even those lost to the mists of time. We've only just begun to scratch the surface, and I, for one, am eager to learn more.
As am I. It's a reminder that history is never truly over. It's this continuous conversation, a dialogue between the past and the present.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Be sure to subscribe and join us next time as we delve even deeper into the world of the Sasanians. We'll explore their culture, their conflicts, and their lasting legacy. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that historical curiosity alive.